Alright guys, so I figured I'd make a quick video about Sony Digital Cinema. I've been a tech that's worked on these projectors for... that's gonna kill me working on that. Let's stop monitoring this. Okay. Alright guys, this is Digital Cinema Tech. Today we're going to be looking at Sony exiting the market. This is not new news. This came out about a year ago. I've been working on Sony projectors for about 10 years now, so I thought I'd give you a little bit of insider knowledge on this. So this didn't come as a huge shock. Sony had their 35mm film option that was not very popular. Dolby and DTS were much more popular. This article is pretty good, and it even goes into some of the problems that Sony had. As you can see right here, longtime industry analyst said, "I've been expecting this for a long time. They have a liability issue with the projectors due to the technology of the imaging device. The ultraviolet light from the projector's lamp slowly destroys the imaging device, and the projected image loses color. The solution is to replace the imaging devices once a year or so, but this is expensive." So I wanted to go a little bit more in depth to show you guys what that looks like. First of all, this is not a new problem. So here we go, last updated 2014. So this technology, liquid crystal on silicon, has been around for a long time. You can see Sony sold a lot of rear projection televisions between 2002 and 2007, 3.5 million. They quickly found out that these optical blocks were not reliable. So compared with DLP, which is a bunch of mirrors that don't degrade, on LCOS you would get things like this, blue blobs. That's on a rear projection TV. Yeah, big mess, huge lawsuit. So what happens? Sony decides, hey, let's put this in cinema. It sounds like a really stupid idea, but actually the image quality was pretty good. So if we pull this up here, where is it? Yeah, so this contrast ratio right here, 8,000. So that is about 4 times the contrast ratio of DLP. And this image down here kind of shows the difference. So if you were to compare the Sony and a DLP side by side, the Sony would just look much more film-like, much deeper blacks. And properly maintained Sony projector, I think, was the best you could get for a long time. It really only became eclipsed by direct display, which is still not that popular yet because of its expense. So yeah, these Sony projectors are really nice, especially the 515s and 815s with this high contrast. So that's kind of the story of that. Made a little video showing you what goes into replacing these optical blocks. It's fairly involved, which is why that article says it's expensive. So each projector has its own unique key here on the top. You unlock that, pull the top cover off. You've just got 2 fan panels here. There's screws on the bottom that you have to take out. Yeah, always kill the power. You unplug these little fan connectors, put those guys on top. Fast forward a bit. And then the nice thing about this projector is the whole thing just slides out. That's really great. Sony was kind of thinking ahead at this point. This was their 2nd or 3rd projector with LCOS. Alright, so here I've got it on the workbench. You've got the old one here, and you've got the new one back here in a special metal shipping cage. Let me show you what this one looked like, the reason we were replacing it. So here's the photos. Yeah, this is supposed to be completely black. You can see this is the way they fail nowadays. The blue starts leaking through, and so your picture that's supposed to be completely black just starts looking more and more blue. Occasionally, if you let him keep going, white will start to look discolored. You'll get this horrible yellow blob. And you can just imagine what someone's face looks like. They just look jaundiced and horribly sick. Another wake and failure, it's just random blobs. So this is the other problem with Sony Cinema, is that over time, even if it doesn't fail completely, you can start to get disuniformities. And Sony's solution to that was to make a camera that takes about an hour, and it goes through every pixel here and just evens them out until you get a nice white even screen again. Again, that's something you never have to do with DLP projectors. And a lot of theaters didn't do this. I've been to plenty of AMC cinemas, and their white screen looks like this. It's yellow in some spots, it's purple in some spots. It's expensive to have a technician go around and do this recalibration and cleaning all the time to keep these things looking good. So we'll go back to the video here. The other thing, this is a very expensive part. So if we look on the Sony website, yeah, list prices for these things are just astronomical. $30,000 basically. So you can see I'm taking apart. This dowser has to come off. So this all stays. This is the mirrors. White light comes in here, it gets split up into red, green, and blue, and those get sent to these 3 panels. And it's really only the blue panel that has problems. That one gets, actually the blue panel's right here. They put a UV filter here to try and protect it, but it still goes out. It's about every 2 years. You can see I'm just pulling off the parts. They call this a T-core because it's a T shape. So you can see it right here in the middle. That'll be more obvious when I lift it apart. Alright, this is the most nerve-wracking part of replacing these things. These cables are just so fragile. Yeah, be very careful with these. Sony used to say it was $5,000 if you ripped a cable. Now they're saying it's the full $30,000. Ridiculous. Yeah, I'm taking my time. Don't rush these things at all. These are called ZIF connectors, zero insertion force. And so the cable just lays in there, and you have these little plastic clamps that hit around the edge. And I'll post this video separately if anyone wants to watch it. So now I've got everything unplugged. I can actually unbolt the T-core. And then, yeah, carefully slide it out. This is the point where those ribbon cables can scrape something and get damaged very easily. Sony recommends putting it on a roll of packing tape. Just anything that kind of keeps those ribbon cables connected. And then you take the replacement one and drop it in. So here, if I was a Sony engineer, I would have made this panel field replaceable. You can see it on the back here with the heatsink. Instead of shipping out a $30,000 light engine and taking a technician, you know, an hour, 2 hours to replace, we could have just replaced this chip, and then this whole fiasco could have been avoided. Who knows why they didn't. And you slide that down, reconnect everything. It's really pretty easy on these. The earlier model Sony projectors are a lot harder, the 220 and 320. Now putting these back on is much easier than taking them off. You're not worried about breaking these little fragile connectors here. Ahead a bit. Yeah, just be easy on them. Don't force them in. Don't bend them. They bend very easily. this dowser. One common mistake I see is that people, where is it? Yeah, right here, these little clips. This dowser's got to fit into those two little hooks down there. If it doesn't, then that little motor in there won't work right, and your dowser, when it's sliding back and forth, will block some of the light coming out of here. Oh yeah, one other interesting thing to note. So Sony has come up with various solutions to try and fix this in the field. One of these is this quarter wave plate adjustment. So at the factory, it's kind of glued in place where it's supposed to be. And then as these things age, the theory is that you can just rotate this to adjust it and account for it. And yeah, that kind of works sometimes. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of the blue out, but then you'll introduce a little bit of green or other colors. Yeah, it's really a stopgap solution, and it's really not worth it in my experience. So when you get really good at replacing these things, you can do them in about an hour. And of course, be careful boxing this one back up to send back to Sony. Yeah, take lots of pictures of the ribbon cables, because these things aren't cheap. They've also experimented, you can see these Peltier coolers on them. They've experimented with lower temperatures. That seems like it maybe helps it last a little bit longer. I think the temperature target originally was 45°C. They've lowered that down to, I think, 25°C, just in a desperate attempt to try and make these things last longer. Yep, and then the modular design of this projector is great. You just slide that whole assembly right back in here. It's 4 bolts. Tighten them down, put all the fan covers back on. So now that Sony's decided to exit the market, theater runners are kind of screwed, because these things have to be replaced every 2 years. And once you're out of warranty and they're not available anymore, these things are basically just paperweights. $50,000 projector just sitting there, useless. So Sony provides this little software tool. Since this thing is an analog device, the liquid crystal, every pixel needs a different voltage to get a nice uniform field. So you just apply a lookup table, and that gives you your gamma and uniformity. Yeah, it doesn't look great, but when we do preventative maintenance on this theater, we will not just use the factory files, but we will actually use our equipment to recalibrate it on site, which gives you a much better result. And then once you're in, all the optics have shifted a little bit, so you're going to have to readjust your focus and masking. We've got a, you can see me looking for the content there. I'm going to pull it from the library. It's just an FTP transfer over. So we'll play this framing chart test pattern, and we'll check the focus and the masking with it. There we go. It looks nice. Much better than it was before. So anyway, that's all I've got for you guys. Just thought I'd give you a little insight into Sony Digital Cinema behind the scenes. Thanks.